Chapter 1. The Dawn of a New Era. In a vibrant cityscape punctuated by towering skyscrapers and buzzing with technological breakthroughs, everyone was tuned into the thrilling advent of teleportation technology. It was a time brimming with optimism, and young physicist Jack found himself standing at the epicenter of this revolutionary leap for humanity. Jack was a fresh-faced individual in his late 20s, his hazel eyes usually filled with a curious sparkle that echoed his insatiable appetite for knowledge. His tall, somewhat lanky frame bore the modest attire of a scientist, a crisp white lab coat adorned with a name tag reading Jack. It was a simple name, yet it carried the weight of the enormous expectations and dreams of a generation eager to transcend the boundaries of space and time. He was amongst the brave group of volunteers willing to step into the unknown, a group brought together by a shared vision of a world where distances would shrink to nothingness, and the word far would lose its meaning. The testing facility was a bustling hub of activity, where people rushed about, their faces a canvas of complex emotions ranging from stark excitement to niggling apprehensions. Inside the cavernous laboratory that housed the teleportation pods, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Jack could feel the palpable energy of the place, vibrating with a symphony of humming machinery and whispered exchanges amongst the scientists and engineers, their faces flushed with nervous excitement. The pods themselves were sleek, futuristic capsules, a perfect blend of science and art, their surfaces adorned with blinking lights and intricate circuits, promising a gateway to an unimaginable future. Jack couldn't help but marvel at the scene unfolding before him, the array of computers and gigantic screens displaying complex equations and data streams that seemed to dance like flickering candles. His heart pounded in his chest as he approached the pod designated for him, his palms slightly sweaty, betraying the blend of excitement and fear swirling within him. As he stepped into the teleportation pod, a sudden rush of cold air greeted him, surrounding him in a sterile yet comforting embrace. The interior bore a calm blue hue, casting a serene glow on the clean, white surfaces. An attendant with a reassuring smile handed him a fitted helmet that bore an intricate web of sensors designed to monitor every aspect of his physiological responses throughout the process. In the moments before the teleportation commenced, Jack could feel a tense hush descending upon the room, as if the world itself was holding its breath. He caught a fleeting glimpse of his reflection in the glass panel before him, a young man with tousled brown hair, his face displaying a brave front yet betraying a flicker of vulnerability in his earnest eyes. With a deep breath to steady himself, Jack closed his eyes, the hum of the machinery growing louder as the system initiated. He could feel a tingling sensation coursing through him, as though millions of tiny bubbles were fizzing through his veins, a symphony of electric bees buzzing in a harmonious melody that promised to bridge distances that once seemed insurmountable. And then, with a sensation that felt like being gently pulled from all directions, the great adventure began, launching him into the unknown, embarking on a journey guided by the hope that science would indeed make the impossible possible. In this monumental moment, Jack was not just a physicist or a volunteer. He was a pioneer stepping into a new frontier, where dreams could potentially weave into the very fabric of reality. Chapter 2. Dazzling Experiments. Days melded into weeks as the once initial buzz of excitement gradually gave way to a steady rhythm of trial and analysis. The laboratory became a second home for Jack and the other volunteers, a place where they spent countless hours immersed in an ocean of blinking lights and whirring machinery. Each day greeted them with a routine that became as familiar as a well-read book. They were acquainted with meticulous health checks and preparations, where every pulse and heartbeat were monitored and recorded. Jack and his fellow pioneers adorned themselves in specially designed suits that bore resemblance to those worn by astronauts, meticulously engineered to protect and monitor their well-being during the trials. They were a diverse group, men and women from different walks of life, each bringing a vibrant tapestry of backgrounds and experiences to this monumental endeavor. Their faces became familiar landscapes of shared dreams and aspirations, an amalgamation of hope and excitement mirrored in enthusiastic conversations and shared smiles. Despite the rigorous schedule, there existed pockets of light moments where they would gather in the communal area, sharing jokes and stories over cups of tea and biscuits, a touch of normalcy amidst the extraordinary. Here, Jack found camaraderie and even friendship, a shared bond forged in the crucible of pioneering spirit and hopeful anticipation. But as the weeks progressed, Jack couldn't help but feel a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The dazzling experiments carried out with awe-inspiring machines gradually bore the weight of routine, the initial wonder giving way to analysis and scrutiny. During the teleportation sessions, the volunteers stood in designated positions, their hearts pounding in unison as they were enveloped in a cocoon of pulsating lights and harmonic vibrations. The process was almost balletic, a choreographed dance of technology and human spirit weaving through the orchestrated symphony of buzzing machinery and flickering screens. Yet, amidst the scientific artistry, Jack felt a burgeoning undercurrent of unease. As the teleportations became more frequent, each arrival at the destination pod carried a faint echo of something more, a lingering sensation that felt slightly off, a subtle discrepancy that seemed to grow with each successive jump. During the debriefing sessions, Jack and others exchanged curious glances, a shared acknowledgement of the faint residue of unease that tingled on their skin, a whisper of something that clung to them, elusive yet palpably present. The scientists encouraged them to express their feelings, noting down every detail with furrowed brows and attentive nods, reassuring them that it was likely just a side effect of the revolutionary technology they were pioneering. Yet, as Jack lay in his bed at night, the humming laboratories a distant echo in his mind, he couldn't shake off a niggling worry. His once eager and vibrant hazel eyes now bore a shadow of doubt, a burgeoning apprehension that they were venturing into territories beyond their comprehension. It was a silent whisper that trailed at the back of his mind, a gentle prodding question persistently echoing in the quieter moments. Were they truly ready for the repercussions of treading into the unknown, the undulating paths that lay in the realms of the revolutionary yet terrifying teleportation technology? Chapter 3. Terrifying teleportation. As the teleportations continued with an almost regimented frequency, a cloud of fear and uncertainty began to shroud the once vibrant laboratory. The volunteers, including Jack, couldn't ignore the alarming transformations that started manifesting in their bodies and those around them. The first signs were subtle: a slight stiffness in the joints, a lingering fatigue that seemed to permeate every muscle, an inexplicable sense of disorientation that haunted them long after the teleportation process was complete. It wasn't long before they all noticed a stark change in their reflections, with their skin acquiring a strange pallor, their eyes losing their spark, replaced with a deep well of fear and confusion that echoed the turmoil brewing within them. But it escalated quickly, from subtle changes to grotesque transformations that seemed to defy all logic. The volunteers would arrive at the destination with limbs grotesquely elongated, skin textured with a pattern that resembled a nightmarish canvas of pain and fear. The bodies began to betray them, their forms twisting into macabre silhouettes that bore little resemblance to the spirited individuals who had stepped into the pods with hopes and dreams in their eyes. The transformations were not just physical, they were mentally unraveling, becoming shells of their former selves. Jack watched, paralyzed with fear, as his colleagues turned into something indescribable, their faces distorted with agony and anguish. A terrifying fusion of human and monster, trapped in bodies that no longer felt their own. Jack's dear friend Lisa, A vibrant woman with a contagious laughter that could brighten up even the gloomiest days, was caught in this terrifying spiral. Her transformation was heart-wrenching, her once radiant face now marred with bulging veins that traced her skin like nightmarish roots on a distorted map. Her eyes hollowed, a deep abyss of torment that replaced the sparkling eyes that once held so much joy and life. The laboratory that once buzzed with excitement and wonder turned into a ground zero of horror and despair. Every teleportation brought forth new horrors, a terrifying showcase of the human body turned inside out, a canvas of unbearable pain and unyielding fear. The air grew thick with a miasma of fear, the floors stained with tears and otherworldly substances that oozed from the mutated forms. The volunteers, caught in this terrifying loop, began to avoid mirrors, unable to bear the sight of their transforming selves. Their bodies a grotesque testimony to the terrifying teleportation gone wrong. Desperation took hold, each individual grappling with the loss of their humanity. Their once articulate conversations replaced with guttural sounds, a heartbreaking echo of the vibrant personalities that were steadily eroding. Jack found himself torn between the urge to flee and the need to help his fellow volunteers, his friends. His body was a battlefield of conflicting emotions, his heart a pounding drum of fear, his mind a whirlpool of confusion and denial. Each day he faced his reflection, witnessing the steady encroachment of terrifying changes, a silent witness to the tragic tale unfolding within the cold, unforgiving walls of the laboratory, a place where the dreams of a revolutionary future spiraled into a nightmare of horrifying realities, a terrifying teleportation journey into the unknown that held no return. Chapter 4. The Breaking Point. Amid an environment rapidly transforming from a beacon of futuristic promise to a landscape of hellish nightmares, Jack found himself grappling with a reality that seemed increasingly detached from the realm of understanding. The facility, once alive with a pulse of innovation and camaraderie, echoed ominously with sounds that bore no semblance to human speech. Guttural cries and eerie whispers that reverberated through the sterile hallways, bearing testimony to the terrifying teleportation process gone awry. In the depths of the testing rooms, the teleportation pods stood ominously, their previously sleek exteriors now marred with signs of stress, an eerie glow emanating from within, as if harboring an entity far removed from the technology they had heralded. The teams of scientists and engineers, once enthusiastic purveyors of groundbreaking technology, wore expressions of deepening despair, their faces drawn, their eyes a deep well of horror as they frantically tried to reverse the grotesque transformations that their invention had inflicted upon the volunteers. Each day brought new horrors as they witnessed the relentless march of the transformations. The volunteers' friends and colleagues, metamorphosing into entities that bore little resemblance to their former selves. It was a world unraveling, a fabric of reality being torn apart stitch by agonizing stitch, each thread bearing the pain, the fear, and the incomprehension of individuals lost to a terrifying chasm of unknown variables. The once vibrant group of volunteers was now a shadow of its former self, a horrifying tableau of twisted limbs and grotesquely deformed bodies writhing in unending agony. The laboratory had transformed into a living canvas of Dantesque proportions, a hellish landscape where once hopeful individuals were now prisoners within their mutating flesh. Jack, despite undergoing terrifying changes himself, remained one of the few who could still articulate thoughts, albeit with growing difficulty. His hazel eyes, now dulled and surrounded by a labyrinth of crimson veins, bore witness to the unyielding despair that enveloped them. His limbs felt heavy, his skin an uneven landscape of painful protrusions and eerie indentations that seemed to fluctuate with each passing day. A reflection in the glass bore back a creature caught between man and something other, a grotesque form clinging desperately to fragments of its humanity. Yet deep within him, in corners of his mind not ravaged by the monstrous transformation, a fragment of the passionate physicist remained, a fragment of a man who had dreamt of transcending boundaries and breaking chains. With each labored breath, Jack fought to hold on to his identity, his memories, and a flicker of hope in a world consumed by darkness. Within the tormented group, desperate plans began to take shape, a collective determination to end the horrifying cycle they found themselves trapped within. Secretive whispers exchanged between tortured breaths formed a lattice of desperate hope, a clandestine network born of a collective will to reclaim their humanity, to save themselves from further descent into the nightmarish abyss that terrifying teleportation had wrought upon them. The breaking point arrived with a crescendo of frenzied activity as the remaining vestiges of the human spirit rallied for a final stand. Broken but not defeated, the volunteers embarked on a heart-wrenching mission to shut down the malevolent technology that had consumed so much of their lives and bodies. As Jack and his companions moved with agonizing slowness, a cacophony of groans and cries filled the facility. A symphony of despair that echoed with the collective pain of bodies broken and souls shattered. In a world bereft of normality, where the boundaries between man and monster blurred with each passing moment, the terrified and tormented beings found themselves standing on the precipice of unknown consequences, united in a desperate bid to reclaim their lost humanity, to silence the machine that threatened to swallow their very essence in the terrifying teleportation process that marked the darkest chapter in their lives. Chapter 5. Redemption or Ruin. In the heart of the dystopian landscape that the laboratory had become, Jack and his band of disfigured companions marshaled their remaining shards of humanity, embarking on a precarious journey between the flickering shadows of their once sophisticated, now demonic home. Faces that bore grotesque imprints of suffering carried expressions of determined resolve, a show of spirit in the grotesquely transformed bodies. Each step was a symphony of anguish as they advanced, a collective of broken beings united in desperate hope. Jack led the way, his every movement a testament to indomitable will overcoming agonizing physical transformation. His skin bore grotesque, ever-changing patterns, a swirling mosaic of darkening hues that echoed the chaotic energies that had ravaged them all. The control room loomed ahead, an epicenter of twisted technology and shattered dreams. Here, amidst the banks of flickering screens and ominous humming of the monstrous teleportation machine, they would find their salvation or doom. Jack, with limbs distorted yet determined, struggled to operate the interface, his once graceful fingers now old appendages wrestling with delicate tasks. The room was a frenzy of activity as others joined him, their misshapen hands working with frantic urgency, bypassing systems, rewiring circuits in a chaotic ballet of desperation and determination. Elaborate patterns of light flashed erratically across the room, reflecting on their tormented faces as they worked, a cruel mirror to the terrifying teleportation process that had stolen their humanity. And then, amidst the chaos of distorted bodies and desperate actions, a voice emerged, a beacon of clarity rising above the cacophony of sounds. It was Lisa, her voice emerging from her mutilated form like a bird taking flight amidst a storm. Her words were a tapestry of hope and pain, weaving through the air as she conjured the essence of their shared dreams, their lost potential, urging them to remember the humanity that once pulsated vibrantly within them. Tears flowed freely, mixing with grotesque fluids as individuals halted, transfixed by the harmonious melody of Lisa's voice, a poignant reminder of the vibrancy and joy that once resided within them. Lisa spoke of families, of the warmth of a sunny day, the taste of a lover's kiss, invoking the rich tapestry of experiences and emotions that had once defined their existence. As Lisa's voice reached a crescendo of raw emotion, Jack managed to activate a sequence, a reverse mechanism conceived in desperation and hope, a function to undo the terrifying teleportation that had wrought such ruin upon them. The air became electric, a whirlwind of energies spiraling uncontrollably, enveloping them in a cocoon of pulsating lights and harmonic vibrations, reminiscent of their first steps into the unknown. The room became ground zero for a reversal of fates, a battlefield where twisted flesh and desperate spirits fought against the technological monstrosity they had unleashed upon themselves. It was a dance of light and shadow, a maelstrom of conflicting energies vying for dominance in a desperate bid to reclaim the humanity that lay fragmented amongst the grotesque tableau of flesh and despair. The facility vibrated with an intensity that threatened to tear it apart, a crescendo of sound and fury that bore the weight of their collective wills, their collective hopes. It was a cacophony of terror and longing, a symphony of anguished cries and hopeful pleas reaching a fever pitch as reality itself seemed to warp and bend around them. And then, silence, a deafening stillness that bore witness to their desperate bid for redemption. As the dust settled, figures emerged from the wreckage, trembling and weak yet unmistakably human. Bodies that bore the marks of recent horror slowly regained familiar forms, a canvas of the human spirit fighting to reassert itself over the grotesque mutations. The process was far from perfect, with fragments of the terrifying experience etched into their beings, a mosaic of scars and partial deformities that bore testimony to the harrowing journey through terrifying teleportation they had endured. Yet amidst the broken bodies and scarred souls, there existed a shard of hope, a flicker of the human spirit reborn from the depths of hellish torment. Jack, Lisa, and their companions, albeit not fully restored, found themselves returned to a semblance of humanity, a group united in the shared experience of unimaginable pain and newfound hope. As they emerged from the laboratory, stepping into the cold light of a world that remained blissfully unaware of the horrors that had unfolded within the facility, they clung to each other, a collective of broken yet hopeful souls ready to forge a path into an uncertain future. It was a beginning born from the most tragic of endings, a tentative first step into a world scarred yet hopeful, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity rising from the ashes of terrifying teleportation, ready to face a world of redemption or ruin with fractured yet unbroken resolve. Thank you for watching. To stay up to date on our future videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and let us know what you think in the comments below.